Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am back for another kind of behind the scenes foster care situation video. Again, it is not going to be as deep as my first video. It's going to be kind of a lot more along the lines of my last one, the one over food abuse. That was kind of more or less just an informational kind of this happens a lot kind of video. This is another thing that people don't really think about. I think it's becoming a lot more apparent because a lot more of us are coming out and saying, hey, this happened to me. So I do meet people all the time who are like, I actually know someone who does that or know someone who went through that. So it's a lot more common now, but if you don't know about it, you're going to know about it after this video. And that is the people who foster for the sole purpose of the money. All about the money. And now this might seem like a completely crazy idea if you have no idea about the foster system or what it entails. Basically, if you're a foster child, when you show up, your foster parents will begin to receive a monthly monetary stipend for you, which is fancy talk for they get paid. They get paid with paper to keep you. Now, this isn't a lot sometimes. Sometimes if you're just a normal plain Jane kid, it might be a couple, like $400 or $500. I think the average is like $500 to $700-ish depending on a lot of things. How many kids you got, what level of behavior they have. If they have special needs, they're going to get a lot more money to keep them. If you work through a private agency as opposed to a state-run agency, you might end up getting paid more per child. So a lot of things go into this. There's no, okay, you get $800 a month for every kid. Every kid is different. Every agency is different. I know a lot of agencies you can actually negotiate how much you get for each kid. So for that reason, what ends up happening a lot. Now, these stipends are supposed to go to, helping with food and helping clothe them, help with any kind of expenses they might have as far as like tampons and deodorant and what have you. That being said, everything else for a foster child, you get a Medicaid card for them, so their medical is covered, their dental is covered. When they go to school, their books and their cost of tuition is covered. Not in college, in high school. Everything that is covered. If you get public assistance, you can get WIC, you can get food stamps, you can get Section 8 in some cases, which is basically aid to help you pay your rent. You can, if you are a child going to school, you get the free and reduced lunches. So they really set it up to where this money is really made to go towards the child, directly caring for the child, paying the bills that the child may occur, like if you have another person move into your house, your electric bill is going to go up. That kind of thing. So all of this is just for the kid and the bills and the actual house. But that gets lost in translation with a lot of people. Because you have a lot of people out there who are really, really lazy and they've got a house and they're like, you're telling me that I could stack this house with America's unwanted children, and unfortunately just about anyone who wants to be a foster parent these days can become one, and they will stack their houses to the absolute brim until the state tells them they can no longer have any more children, and they pull their money. I've heard horror stories from people, which I don't typically like to tell other people's stories, but it's very, very, very important that people hear that this happens, because this particular group of people cannot speak out for themselves. I have heard numerous times from numerous places, numerous states, that foster families will become foster families with the intent to foster people with severe mental and physical disabilities just so they can get that couple $1,000s, and then they sit there. I have heard horror stories of grown people having blistering, bleeding diaper rash. I've heard stories of people basically starving because the parents will just leave all day and leave them like they were dogs in a kennel or something. I've heard horrible things, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it because, like I've always said, it's not my trauma to talk about. But this happens at an alarming rate with people who cannot speak up for themselves. People who have severe disabilities, because they get more for them. So it makes sense. If you have a house with 3 extra bedrooms and the state will give you 3 children with special disabilities or whatever, you're going to get $3,000 or $4,000 a month and you're going to sit on your ass. And that's what a lot of people do. Now, this comes through as a lot of in other ways as well. How does this affect the kid, the people who just want money? It affects the kid mostly with neglect. That's what it is. It's very obvious, the people who only want you for money. I lived with one home. This person would literally just leave me at their house, like, all the time. Like, I don't think this person saw me as, like, a child, really, that they were supposed to be taken care of. Like, they would leave. I would come home from school, and they wouldn't be home until 11 o'clock at night. On a weekend, they would leave super early in the morning, or they would drop me off downtown super early in the morning, and I would just be there by myself all day. And it was literally just, like, with this person in particular, it was like, all right, this person will take care of you. Go stay with this person for our weekend. Go do this. When we went through the drive-thru, like, gonna eat dinner, going to Burger King, they would expect me to pay for my own food. Not all the time, but if I had food, they would. They expected me to buy my own deodorant and to buy my own stuff. And then if I said, oh, I don't have the money, they would go out and literally go to the Dollar Tree and buy me stuff. And it's not right. You're literally getting paid to take care of me, and you act like doing your job is a stretch. Now, this person in particular, I don't believe that they really even cared for children, because almost everything in their life is a scam, honestly. They're just trying to scam people. We would literally be so stacked in this tiny, tiny house that, like, my bed was pressed up against somebody else's bed, and it was a bunk bed, so I have literally people, like, basically sleeping on top of me. There is zero privacy, which is actually against the rules. If you're in a foster home, they don't require much, but you are supposed to have, like, 5 feet between each bed. They are not supposed to be touching. But foster caseworker comes in, you need to change that. Goes by another month, you need to change that. I lived like that for a long, probably over a year, and the only reason why it changed is because we moved. They didn't care. Even if it's against the rules and they can see it's against the rules, most caseworkers aren't going to care unless you're literally bleeding or starving. They can see your bones. And then even then, they might not feel like doing the paperwork. It is what it is. Not all caseworkers. I did have a few caseworkers who are really, really great. And I probably will do a whole video someday about that side of the foster system and what needs to be done. Because a lot of my abuse and a lot of my trauma was known. Now that's a video that a lot of people I know are kind of, buttholes a little puckered because I could get some people in trouble. I'm not interested in suing the state in any way, shape, or form. I know they were negligent with my case. I know they did a lot of things wrong. I know that I could sue them and I could win. I have had numerous attorneys come to me and say, I will represent you pro bono. Please let me. And I say, no, it's not going to do anything. I don't want to take more money out of the state. It's not going to serve a purpose. What I want to do is to change it. And thank God I went through the things that I went through, so I have the stories that I have to say. Maybe something will actually be changed this time. Fingers crossed. Now, this money-obsessed foster care ploy, as I will call it, it went in deep. There were some homes that were so obsessed with you not costing them money that they would make you shower outside in the rain. I remember numerous times, and you know, to begin with, it was always like, oh, this is fun, right? We're playing out in the rain. And then it got to the point where it's raining, go take a shower. And all right, I guess that's fine. And then they would make us sleep outside, like a lot. And it wasn't like we were camping. They would literally lock us out of the house. There was even one time they told us we were camping because they didn't want to run the electricity overnight. So they just turned off all the power and we all literally slept outside. We didn't even have like sleeping bags or anything. I think some of us did, but I didn't. I literally just had like a sheet that I laid on the ground so the grass wouldn't scratch me, and then a blanket and a pillow. That was like off my bed. It was one of the most uncomfortable nights of my life. Sometimes, most of the time, I slept on the trampoline. That was a lot easier. I don't know why I didn't sleep on the trampoline this night. And there was also a hammock, but that was mostly one of the older kids would get that. So we slept outside a lot. This family in particular, they were really crazy about their food as well. They were not great about feeding us and feeding us enough. They would buy $1 pizza and we would get 2 slices apiece. Now, if you've ever seen one of these little $1 pizzas, they're about this big. They're about personal size. So what might fill up someone, you know, is it good for you? No, but if you eat the whole thing, it might fill you up. Eating 2 little slices of it didn't even, that's an appetizer in most people's eyes. So it didn't cut it at all. They just did absolutely everything that they could to make sure that their foster children did not cost them much. And if they did, it was minimal. Now, this is where it gets weird. This is also a family who presented themselves one of the best. They presented themselves as clean, and so did all of their foster children. You were expected to look like them, to dress like them, to do your hair like them. Sometimes some of these families would make you dye their hair, your hair. One family made me straighten my hair a lot because they liked the way my hair looked stacked and short and cut. Which honestly, and then she would complain when my hair would get curly. I'm like, I have fine curly hair. It doesn't do well when you straighten it. That's why I don't straighten it. If you ever notice why my hair looks like a hot mess sometimes, because when you have hair like mine, you don't do it. You just try to tame it in an aesthetically pleasing manner. So it really goes deep. It goes deep, deep. Sometimes it's literally you just won't get enough food because food's expensive. Sometimes it's you're literally going to be sleeping outside. You're going to be showering outside. You can't have anything like things that kids may want. You're not going to get those. You're not going to get the nice clothes. You're not going to be able to. One thing that really hurt me a lot was I want to play da da da. I want to be in da da da. I want to try out for this play. It was always no. 100% of the time it was no. It's too far. We can't drive you back and forth. It's too much gas. It's going to be too much for the uniform. We just can't afford it. Can't afford it. Can't afford it. And one of the main things that I feel like I missed out on growing up in foster care was opportunities. Period. All across the board. Whether that was young when I wanted to learn how to river dance or is when I was older and I was trying to become an educated person and I couldn't because I was, move schools so much that you're just kind of an idiot because you miss so much. You might move from this school to that school and miss 3 weeks worth of crap and then you're never going to get that back. So just opportunities are hard to come by when you live with these people who don't look at you as a child who's going to be an adult someday. When you're looked at as a paycheck, it's even more degrading and demeaning than what it is just to be a foster kid in general. Because in these homes, you think, all right, I'm just a case number. And then you show up to one of these homes, and then they take you from being a case number to, I'm just something that takes up space that makes someone a little bit of money sometimes. I guess that's about it. I think I hit all of them. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I even lived with a family one time. This is how cheap these people are. This person, if they took us out to eat or whatever, they had multiple foster kids in their home. If they took us out to eat, they would literally steal from a nonprofit organization they were included in. I saw them use the card with the name on it, and I even said one time, hey, why are you using this organization's card? Like, no one's here. Like, this isn't a trip. Like, why are you literally stealing money? And they claimed that they were going to be paying it back. They were just, I'm waiting for money to transfer over or something. I'm going to pay it back. So these people, a lot of people, not only are they trying to scam the state as far as the foster care is concerned, but they're scamming everyone. It's not just kids. I've seen a lot of people use foster kids as kind of like a self-service kind of thing. Like, look at me, I'm so good, I have foster kids. And that's bad, but it's even worse when you use a kid just because you're too lazy to go out and get a real job. And that's what I see a lot. I have seen lots of kids, and it's really obvious sometimes. Sometimes it's so obvious that a kid will be living with another person, and the state steps in and is like, hold on, if you're not caring for them, we're going to give your stipend to this person. So that foster parent's like, we'll send them back then. I'll take care of them. It's about the money. It's all about the money. It's about how much you have to spend, and they try really, really hard to stack their homes as absolute tight as they can, and then do the bare minimum for their kids so they get the most return. And for that reason, I'm out. I just Shark Tanked a whole group of people. Like, this is insane to me. Like, these are people, these are children, and you're literally looking at them as a paycheck. I know some of my former foster families are going to watch this. And this is something that's really hurt me. And it hurt me in a way that it's not as obvious as physical abuse or sexual abuse. It hurt me in a way that made me think if I was even worth the money. You know? Like, how does this happen? How can I literally just be a paycheck to someone? And of course, they do everything they can. These people aren't stupid people. They're highly manipulative. They're toxic. They make it look good. I even had one person hit me up after I left her house to tell me to not tell other people that she had kicked me out of her house because it made her look bad. There's no regard for the human inside of these foster kids. There's just big fat dollar signs on them, and that's all it is. It's not every foster home. Man, I've heard some people's stories who say that, their foster parents are great, get them what they want, they give them opportunities, and that's fantastic. But I'm here to tell you that the overwhelming majority of the people that I have been with personally, and people who I know, because of course, one thing I always wanted to do was advocate. So when I was in homes, I would say, what have you gone through? And so many kids know exactly what I'm talking about. If you are one of those kids, drop it in the comments. I like to see it. Other people want to see it because they hear me, and it just backs me up even more so to prove that this is not just something that's happening to me. It is a trend. It is the norm. Drop your comments with your stories. I'm trying to think of a way that I could do it in like a good way where I could tell other people's stories, maybe that aren't as verbal or aren't as open. Maybe you're afraid that somebody you know is going to see it and tell. I'm trying to think of a way that I can be a mouthpiece for you. If you want to message me directly, you can do so on Twitter. I am at worldchanger7, and don't laugh, I've literally had that handle since like 14 or 15, so it's a little bit weird. And you can find me on Instagram and now on Facebook as well. I have a community page. On Instagram, I am KatyHuntis, and on Facebook, I am under the Silver Linings campaign. And you can, and it's a community page, so you can go on there and write on the wall. You can give me feedback. You can tell your own stories. It's going to be a great place. It's going to be a community where you can express your issues, vent, just, you know, a little free therapy, if you will. So thank you. I've got a whole notebook full of other videos to do, but this is what it is for right now, and I hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you feel led to do something in your own community to help the orphans and the orphaned, because something's got to be done. This is one of the greatest countries in the whole world, and this is how we're treating our orphaned. What's even more peculiar is this is a largely Christian nation, and in the Bible, you know where I'm going with this? You know where I'm going with this? It literally says to take care of the widows and the orphans, and yet there's 500,000-ish orphans right now, foster children right now, up for adoption in the United States, and there's over 1 million. There's millions of Christians. That number don't add up. That number don't add up. So we've got a lot of people in our world who care a lot about the way they look. They care a lot about money. They care a lot about a lot of things. But we got a lot of people in this world, in our society, who don't care about children. They don't care about the person inside, and that's what I want to change. Peace.